Hi, everybody. I am Carol Kauffman, the founder of the Institute of Coaching, and I am here with the famous and infamous Marshall Goldsmith. What we're going to be doing today is talking about the Marshall Goldsmith Life Plan Review, which is a subtle but very powerful coaching intervention. So you all know Marshall. Here's one thing you may not know about Marshall, which is he has his PhD from UCLA in organizational behavior. Why am I saying that? Why I'm saying that right now is, as we may talk about later, this evolved out of business and practice, but it has an enormous amount of research and evidence that supports it. So, Marshall, want to tell us about the LPR?
Well, the LPR is a process that's evolved over the years. It's a combination of things. One is part of it evolved from my daily question idea, where I have people every day fill out questions, and then it's an accountability mechanism. And it also evolved because my friend Mulally, my friend Alan is probably the best leader in the world in the last, 30 years or so. An amazing man, was CEO of Ford. The stock went from $1 to $18, was CEO of the year in the United States. And Alan uses this process called the BPR. And in the BPR, every week, people go through their basic goals. And here are the 5 most important priorities of my life, and here's what's going well. And I modified that for the LPR because business plan review is BPR, LPR, life plan review. So people actually talk about their lives every week. So we have amazing people every week talk about their lives, and it's been a remarkably successful process. Carol, you've been in it, you've led it. So it's an amazingly successful process. I've been in one with you and the top 8 coaches in the world. So it's been fascinating, and I've analyzed why. Because, every weekend, Mark Thompson and I spend 6 hours on this every weekend. And we have a rotating groups of 50. We have a new group of 50, and these are really an amazing group of people from all walks of life. And they just love it. And I've analyzed why.
So Marshall, I want to interrupt you because a few people said they couldn't hear the very beginning, and saying things like, what does LPR stand for? So guys, LPR stands for Life Plan Review, and it's a process that Marshall has developed, and typically it happens in small groups. And so Marshall, why don't you sort of spell out some of the basics, as you were saying, from Alan Mulally's work, and your work with 6 questions. Yeah. So give us a bit of an overview again.
Well, my friend Alan developed a process called the business plan review. In the business plan review, he actually has an accountability mechanism. So every leader has their top priorities, and they go red, yellow, green every week. So they have an accountability matrix. They practice something that I teach called feed forward, where they learn to ask each other for ideas. They listen. You say thank you. You don't promise to do everything. And then they just repeat the process over and over and over. And it's a very structured, disciplined process. His success rate has been ridiculous. I mean, the stock went from $1 to $18 at Ford. He was the CEO of the year in the United States and had a 97% approval rating for everyone employed in a union company. People love the guy. And so I now modified it for the life plan review, LPR, where you talk about your life every week. So every week we have incredible people going through this. You've been through it yourself. You've led it. You've been through it. So it's been a wonderful process. And I've got a lot of thinking about why it worked and how it works.
Mm-hmm. Let me walk people through what it's like. So in the very beginning, Marshall called about 8 of us who were the shortlisted people as coaches from Thinkers 50 and said, hey, would you be involved in this pilot program? Mm-hmm. And what it means is, what Marshall had us do is first think about our lives, think about what mattered to us and what our goals were, our intrinsic goals. Then figure out a way to make them behavioral and measurable. Because again, if you don't know about Marshall, he is a very good behavioral psychologist. So we do that. We meet in groups of around 6 or 8. We start out, and each one of us goes in turn, going through the areas that we're working on and talking about, what helped us. Sometimes we ask for feed forward. Then after we each go, we sort of review together. So that's what an actual LPR meeting looks like.
Yeah, and we have also 2 or 3 different formats of the LPR, and I'm going to share the pluses and minuses of each. One format is you're with the same group every week. And then the advantage of that format is you have a deeper knowledge, you have more bonding, and it's more of a team-like experience. The other format I use with the LPAR 50 is you're in a different group every week. We have 50 people from diverse backgrounds. They cycle through every week. So literally every week you're in a different group. The advantage of that is you get to meet 50 different people. You have a wide range of very diverse experiences and people. And these are mostly half the group of CEOs of major companies. If they can't show up, there's not this trauma of where are you this week? And from a scheduling point of view, they have 6 options. So rather than being locked into 1 hour, they have 6 hours to pick 1 hour out of 6. So for that group, it works very, very well.
No, it was really wonderful. So guys, it was very humbling to be able to be part of this group and hear these legendary people, Broadway stars, athletes with unbelievable contracts, head of the Olympic Committee, and them really, you get to really see them working on themselves. And Marshall, one of the things you do with this, which is very similar to what Alan Mulally did, Alan came in to turn around a toxic culture. And so he went to transparency and psychological safety.
Right.
Talk a little bit about what's the spirit of the groups in addition to what we do in them.
I think that's very, very important because basically the people in the group, well, I can mention their names. Some of the people in the group, Pau Gasol's a famous basketball player. Curtis Martin's in the National Football League Hall of Fame. Dave Chang is one of the most famous chefs in the world. Ross Shaw's head of the Rockefeller Foundation. John Dickerson's on 60 Minutes. So these are a lot of high visibility people. Mike is CEO of Cardinal Health. And so a lot of
guy who's the Broadway star.
Telly Leung, amazing guy. And then we have Margot, who is CEO of Ancestry, and we have Melissa, CEO of WEX. A lot of interesting people from diverse backgrounds. The reality is, especially today, they're lonely. There's a saying, it's lonely at the top. I can tell you, one of the people I just talked to, it is lonelier at the top. You say one wrong word today, and it goes on social media, you are crucified. So people are lonely, and it's great to have a sense of belonging, the ability to be accountable without being judged. I think that's what people really like about it. There is accountability. Carol, you've seen me, I'm hardly subtle. People stand up and every week they sit there and they say, here's how I did. And every week they are very honest and very straightforward. And you realize we're all humans. I mean, all those people are on paper very distinguished people. They're just humans like everybody else. And it's nice because it holds them accountable. One of the guys in the group said, because we took a little break between one season and another, and he said he just didn't do as well. Why? Because every week it's like a physical exam. He knows it's coming, so he does better because he's got to get up and tell everybody how he did. And the very fact that he has to be accountable just helps him do better.
I think what you just said is very powerful, and we should all remember it every day or with our clients. Is I love what you said, accountable, but not judged. The other thing you always say in our meetings is also no guilt.
Right.
Accountable, no judging, no guilting.
No guilt, right. And just getting people to forgive each other. And what's lovely about the group is everybody gets to be human. One of the gentlemen in our last meeting had a very tragic personal situation with his wife. He talked about it, and the woman that followed him was CEO of Russell Investments, a $5 trillion fund. And, she said, going into this meeting, I was going to talk about my problems. I just realized I don't have any. It was very, very touching because just put things in perspective. And when you listen to everybody else's week, then all of a sudden, we're all humans. We're all humans. Everybody's got their dramas in life. Everybody's got stuff to deal with. And the other thing is, Carol, I don't think we have much of a sense of community like we did in the old days. I don't live where I was brought up. Most of us don't. We don't have this sense of community, this sense of belonging. And So it's nice to be in an environment where you just feel accepted. You don't feel judged. Nobody's putting you down. You don't have to show off. And I think an advantage comes with the LPR 50 group is they're all in different industries, different fields. So the Broadway star doesn't compete with the head of the World Bank. They're just different. Mm-hmm. So they enjoy that. They enjoy the difference. Because if you have like all corporate CEOs, then it can kind of get, my company's bigger than yours is. Yeah, when everybody's...
Wait, stop. I'm going to argue with you about that. I've been in these groups with you. That's what they would be like if you weren't around.
That's true.
You can't get away with that with you. So
that's true. That's true. They don't do so much around me. That is a good point.
So hold on. I just want to sort of say hi to some people who are here. So we've got Jaspal from India, Rachel from the UK, another Rachel from LA, Jean Smith, I think you're from LA too. We've got Maria from Spain, Katie from the DC,
good.
Leah Rain from Portugal, Helen from Brazil. So you guys are all over the place, and thank you for joining. Also, put some questions in here that we can answer. Good. And Marshall, you know what I'd love to hear? You did the LPR yourself with our small group that met every week for 6 months. Mm-hmm. What was the benefit for you of doing the LPR?
As a participant, the benefit for me, I think, is quite similar to everybody else. It just keeps me focused. It keeps me aware of what I'm doing. It keeps me focused on my own objectives, gives me a sense of accountability to the group. And so my theory about all this stuff is if it doesn't apply to you, if you don't know what applies to you, you don't understand it. So everything I do, I try to apply to myself. I have Mark Thompson calls me on the phone every day. I've had somebody call me daily for 25 years to practice the daily questions process. Why? My name is Marshall Goldsmith. I'm too cowardly and undisciplined to do any of this stuff by myself, and I need help. Well, and it's okay. We all need help. So I try to practice everything on myself because I really believe if we don't understand how it applies to us, we don't understand it. Mm-hmm. We don't really understand it. And also, I don't really think I'm better than my clients or more enlightened or whatever, because we're all just humans. We're all just stumbling through life. Nobody knows what's going on anyway, and just doing our best here. So I like the process because that's one of the big learnings is you realize we're all just humans. I mean, Carol, you were in a group of the top 8 coaches in the world. Did you notice any of us were that much better than anybody else?
No. Yeah, you're all better than me.
Not too much, no.
Oh, but please. So guys, here's what it's like. So Marshall calls me up and says, "Do you want to do this experiment?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So commit for 6 months, sight unseen, and then everybody's LPR. The LPR for some of you, it's like the life plan review. So everyone has their life plan review on an Excel sheet that's all shared at any time, et cetera, et cetera. And, I'm seeing other people's LPRs as like best-selling book by April. And I'm like, write a proposal for an article. So you have to get over yourself and also realize that we are all one. So I have a personal question for you, Marshall.
Sure.
Can you share just a moment when you would or would not have done something, but you did it because you knew we were meeting on Saturday?
Yeah, I think one of it is just being aware of what's going on. See, one of the big learnings I've had in the LPR groups is how difficult it is to maintain presence, how difficult it is to maintain focus. One lesson you taught me, Carol, which I've shared with everybody, is a wonderful question to ask yourself. Am I being the person that I want to be right now? I've shared that with so many people already. I learned that from you. And, as I said, I've read 400 books on Buddhism. You can skip the 400 books. Basically, that pretty much gets to the point of the whole thing. And it's hard. It is hard. So many people, by the way, in the LPR have that now question in front of them every day because they get from meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Margot is in our LPR. She's a CEO of Ancestry. And she said, I got to tell myself, this may be the least important Zoom call in the week for me. It may be the most important Zoom call for them.
Mm,
And it's hard with all the
that's right.
changes and to keep focused. And I find for most people on the LPR 50s, it's harder at work than it is at home.
Mm,
It's harder at work as home. One guy's in a nonprofit and he's on this Zoom call. He has this wonderful experience. He comes out of the meeting. He's so excited and jumping up and down. And, his daughter got dumped by the boyfriend. His son's computer doesn't work. He can't get his homework done. His wife is pissed off. And they were like, what an asshole, right? All you talk about is work. And he just kind of forgot where he was. It's hard. He didn't mean any harm at all. He's a wonderful person, but he thought, I just got lost. And you got to breathe and start over,
yes.
start over. And so I find one of the biggest challenges that people face is how they act at home. Because you get home, you're tired, you're just not undisciplined, you say stupid things, and then you think, oh my God, what did I just do here?
That's right. So one of the people in our group, guys, was Magda Mook, who's the CEO of ICF. And one of her big things is she realized that on her LPR, it was all work. And after like 2 weeks, she's like, forget it. I'm going to work on my life.
Yeah.
And I want to say one thing. Gary, you were saying, where can we find it? Well, it is not written up anywhere yet. However, in preparation for today, I'm writing it up because Marshall is too darn busy to do it because he's doing like incredibly cool things. So Carol at instituteofcoaching.org. Write me, I'll get it out. I'll also send you to an email list where you can get a whole bunch of resources from Marshall, the who you want to be right now, etc. But yes, so we will be writing it up so that you can have something, and we will also find a place to put it on the website.
Very good, very good.
So tell us more about why it works and how you think people can scale it out.
Well, I think obviously it can be scaled because Alan Mulally did it to run the Ford Motor Company. So every leader in the company did it. So you can do this with thousands and thousands and thousands of people in an organization. And I would say as a coach, really just get people together and first set your goal. Is your goal to build an intact team, or is your goal to impact people across the organization? Neither good nor bad, just different. So for example, let's say, Carol, you wanted to do an LPR for high potential young women leaders. That'd be great. You could have high potential young women leaders from the same company where they get to know each other, or from different companies. Again, different objective, both good, just different. Figure out what is your goal, then such a great opportunity for people to get to know each other, to develop relationships, to reach out to each other. I mean, Pau Gasol's on our meeting. He's a basketball player. And, he said he's reached out to probably 20 people. 20 people he's met in this process because he just gets to know them and they talk about life. And it's also good to have, it's like a little community where, everybody's there just to support each other. Mm-hmm. So I would say it depends on what your goal is, but anybody could establish an LPR group. And some of the characteristics, you want people in the group who are going to be honest. You want people who are going to be good sports. You don't want people who are too serious. You want people who are honest. You want people who are good sports. They enjoy the process. You enjoy being with them, by the way, because you got to be with these people for a long time. You enjoy the process, and it's a mutually beneficial experience. And also, obviously, people you trust. You have to have people you trust.
And what I found was, number one, you were really able to create the conditions for psychological safety, partly through who you chose, and partly, frankly, because the way you are. I mean, you just call people on BS in an extremely loving, usually funny way. But I also found during so you all may be wondering, like, okay, you list your goals, you talk, what's new? Again, it's deceptively simple. But right. What happened is at the end of our 6 months, we really were reflecting back on what was it like for us. One, our getting to know each other was lovely. Mm-hmm. But for me, I was able to do things because of that experience that I would not have been able to do otherwise. And that was for me, I was having a writing block. And then I decided I wanted to write an HBR article. And so by the end of the group, it was published. So I really was able to do it, but it was being accountable to myself. So Marshall, I remember in the beginning, you had a weight goal, as I recall. Do you want to talk about how the LPR helped you with that?
Well, if you look at my life goals, they might involve, for example, how much I weigh. So how much do you weigh every day? How many steps do I take? So these can be all kinds of things, and it's helped me pretty much keep my life together. And I have a pretty complicated life. There's about 20 things in the world I'm working on. I want to go back to something you said, Carol, deceptively simple.
Yes.
Because we confuse two terms, simple and easy. Now, the daily question process, which is kind of part of the LPR, that's simple. But I can tell you that's not easy. Half the people start doing it quit within 2 weeks. Anybody that tells me that's easy, you've never done that before. You try it. Yeah, you try it for a year or two and tell me how easy it is. It is not easy at all. It's hard. It's very hard to do this stuff. It takes a lot of courage to look in the mirror. It takes humility. You got to stand up. And you've seen, Carol, a lot of big people stand up and say, my name is, I have a problem. It takes humility to do that. And it takes discipline week after week, day after day after day to follow up. This stuff is very, very, very hard to do. That's why I have somebody call me every day. I don't do that for show or because I'm making a point. I'm not wasting 25 years of doing that for no reason. It is hard to do. And real behavioral change is hard. You don't get better because you read a book. You don't get better because you hear a coach. You don't get better because you go to a motivational speech. There's no research that any of that stuff works. If you want to get better, you need to work day after day after day after day after day to get better. And if you look at some of the basic questions, for example, did you do your best to set clear goals today? Now, you might think everybody in this group is going to get a 10 every time. No. Sometimes I say 2 and 3, and maybe my goal is to just respond to crap all day. I guess I'd get a 10, but that's all I did. We just get lost every day. Or did I do my best to be happy? One of the guys in our group is Safi Bakal, brilliant guy, great guy, scientist, and he used to get low scores on being happy.
Every week.
He doesn't anymore. He doesn't anymore. And, he finally realized happiness and achievement are two different variables. They're independent variables. And he was so focused on achievement, he kind of ignored happiness. Because it's like, if I achieve, I will be happy. You won't wrong. No, yeah, you can achieve and not be happy at all. And then he was around Curtis Martin. Curtis gets a 10 on happiness every day. And he said, well, Curtis has achieved tons of stuff. He's a, number 5 rusher in NFL history. He's doing good deeds. He helps people. He's got a fund. He's an amazing guy. And Safi said, wait a minute, this guy can be happy. Why can't I? And, Curtis really helped him. So you don't think a scientist is necessarily going to get help from a pro football player, but he did. And he would tell you, Curtis changed his life.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, no, that was actually amazing, Curtis, talking about that. So one person, I think, shared a question that I think would be helpful to sort out, because he was saying, I think it was Gary again, that ICF talks about open questions. These are closed questions. But we have to remind you, these are questions you ask yourself. But in LPR, what often happened is you would sort of go through your questions and people would rate themselves from 1 to 10. Which is how we knew Safi kept rating himself 1 on a scale, 1 to 10. I think he came at 0 once. Yeah. But why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's very interesting because my daughter Kelly taught me this. Kelly is a professor at Vanderbilt. Looks like she's going to be a full professor already. She got a PhD from Yale. So she knows a lot about research. And Kelly taught me the value of asking a question, did I do my best too? If you look at employee engagement, all employee engagement questions are focused on passive questions. So do you have clear goals? Well, when people say no to a passive question, they blame the environment. Do you have a best friend at work? No, they're jerks. Do you do meaningful work? No, they make me do too. Them. But if you ask yourself, did I do my best too? You have to look in the mirror. And we got a lot of research from this, which you can send out to people, but thousands of people every day, you just start asking, did I do my best too? Be happy. And you realize a lot of our happiness is not coming from the outside, it's coming from the inside. Did I do my best to find meaning? Look at Gary Ridge. They make lubricants, and his team scores off the chart in finding meaning. And I mean, he's got higher scores than the guy running the children's hospital, who's saving the lives of little children on finding meaning. So, it's very important to am I doing my best to do this every day? Because the one thing you're focused on, am I doing my best? And it takes it out of that, let's talk about what's wrong with them. And everybody starts focusing on me. Now, Carol, I got a funny story. I was back to this question thing. I was talking a couple of days ago to Albert Bertle. Albert's the CEO of Pfizer. So I said, Albert, how'd you do on Did I Do My Best to Find Meaning today? He said, I think I got a 9. I said, Albert, buddy, I'm giving you a 10. I just got the vaccine. 10, 10. If anybody in the world's finding meaning, man, you are. Thank you. Thank you for saving my life here. I appreciate it. So it's really interesting to get us to focus on what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about the LPR, it's not really, let's talk about everybody else's problems.
That's right.
Let's
yeah, because it's basically, when something goes wrong or when you're working on something, do you look in the mirror or out the window? And
right.
the LPR is a mirror. And we have to remember, though, you're looking in a mirror that likes you, not in a mirror that judges you.
Right.
And I want to say a moment about the did you do your best to. We didn't get to it now, and so I'll write it up. And anybody, if you put a question in the comments, I'll get back to you. Which is a lot of this, if you think about self-determination theory and the work of Ryan and DC, it aligns with that. You think of Richard Boyatzis, intentional change theory, it aligns with that. With Amy Edmondson's work on psychological safety, with Ben Bura's work on social learning and social modeling, as well as you're actually a behavioral psychologist as well. And so there's a lot to it, and we'll work on sharing that with you. So what else comes to your mind that you'd like to share with us, Marshall?
Well, I just think the importance of community and belonging, that we all need to belong. We all need to be part of a community. You're part of our 100 Coaches community, which has been a wonderful, wonderful community of people trying to help each other. You say no guilt, there's no money, you don't have to do things, just people trying to help each other. And that sense of community has really been eroded in society. And I think just today, it's really nice to have a sense of support group, a sense of community, as you said, accountability without judgment. Feeling like, I am accountable and I want to do well, but people don't judge me. In fact, to be honest, the opposite is true in most of the LPR. I mean, people love you more when you screw up because that makes them feel better. It's kind of like, oh my God, you're that famous and you screwed up that bad. I don't feel so bad anymore. So it's people kind of like it when you screw up because you're just human, and everybody can sit there and kind of laugh about it and say, okay, well, moving on. Next week. And I'm a Buddhist. Part of Buddhism is every time I take a breath, it's a new me. So a big part of what we do is a lot of it's forgive yourself, forgive other people. What happened, happened. Where are you going to go next week? It's a new me, start over. And and then life is a series of starting over events. And, one of the guys in the group, Martin Lindstrom, he said, you got to reset.
That's right.
You have to just reset. The other thing we talk about is empathy, which is very interesting. And Telly, this is an interesting one. Guy in the group of our LPR 50 runs a children's hospital, Dr. Patrick, a Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego, and Telly is an actor on Broadway. Now, you think, what is an actor going to do to help a children's hospital? Well, Telly volunteered to help the children's hospital. And he gave a talk on empathy, and it was beautiful. And it talked about...
Telly is the Aladdin guy on Broadway. And he was Aladdin. They may not know.
He played Aladdin about 1,000 times on Broadway. And he gave a talk about empathy because everybody kind of says empathy is good and caring is good. Well, in a hospital, a children's hospital, you got to learn to let go.
Yeah. So listen, I see that we are running down. I don't know if LinkedIn stops right at the 30-minute mark. If it does, we're going to be cut off mid-sentence.
Okay.
So thank you. And everyone, write questions and follow up. in a post on the site, and we will answer your questions.